do now is discuss, because I broke it down into parts. So this is part 3, and I'm going to be talking about her life from birth to now. Okay, so from when she was born, at day 4, she had to have operation for her shunt. I'll keep looking down there because I've got cues just to remind you so I don't miss anything out. When she was at the hospital with the shunt, and in a way it was good, because what would normally children have if they didn't have fetal surgery, they would have to have the closing procedure, so they'll still be in the neonatal ward, the neosurgery ward in Birmingham Children's Hospital. And when she was there, we were introduced to her neuro nurse, which was Kate Herbert. She overlooked everything. She was absolutely brilliant. She was like, I'm here. She gave me her messages, gave me her number. She was like, you can contact me with any questions you have. And don't worry, she's got this shunt, because that time when I went to visit her for the first time, and she had this bandage on her head, and I remember she was so tiny, so tiny. I mean, she was a good size, she was £5, but my babies are usually really big. My son was 10 pound 10, I know. And but just grabbing her and thinking, and I kept asking, is it okay if I hold her? Just hold her like any other baby, right? Where you wouldn't let them flop their head or anything like that. She's fine. The bandage is just there to keep everything in, so she doesn't take anything off, or she doesn't try to scratch it. But otherwise, that's fine. Then there was other departments that got involved with her. There was Euro came to check on her bladder. There was ortho, because she had a bit of talipes, so her feet had bent a bit. And at that time, they thought it was probably because she couldn't move her legs, so they were kind of bent in. So she had ortho come in as well to discuss what they were going to do. She had physios come in, which came and taught me what type of physio to do with her, like to push her legs forward, stretch her legs, because they said that ultimately you would have to do physio with her all the time, because even though she's got no movement in her legs, if you don't move her legs, they will go stiff and then they will cause pain. She had, after we saw all the doctors and nurses there, because they did a bladder test there as well, and she had passed that bladder test, because if she had failed that bladder test, I would have had to do cathetering to her straight away. So some parents will have to start cathetering straight away, and she was just so tiny, I didn't know how I would do it. But she passed her bladder test. They started suppositories on her straight away. So they said every night put suppositories in her, otherwise they've known that people with spinal bifida, you will then kind of pass stool throughout the day. So they're trying to mechanicize it to kind of so that always coming in just that one time. She proves everything out, and that's where we started. Her team of professionals was she's part of the neuro team. Her doctor was Dr. Rodriguez. He's from the Children's Hospital, who's so amazing and so brilliant. Again, I said neuro nurse was Kate Herbert. Then we were with Euro. She was under Dr. Rob. She was in ortho at that time. She was under she was under an ortho doctor. She's left now, but she was then under a group of physios who then referred to community physio as well later on, and then she's under pediatricians as well. So the referral was made. The physio referral, I had to chase up the community one. So when I went to the pediatrician, because she was part of the neonatal in women's, when we got looked over at the pediatrician there, I mentioned the fact that nothing had come through to community physio. So always mention, if something's lagging, mention to the next professional, because they will be able to sort something out for you. I realise now that there is a system, especially in Birmingham Women, just before this corona hit, they had sorted out to try and get a link between all the different departments of spinal bifida so that they can interact and share information. The next question is the obstacles she's had to overcome. So her disability, which is the most amazing thing, has never been a problem to her. Right now, she is not aware of anything. She is a joy. She is so happy. To her, this is her. She adapts and changes to things and what she needs. She's so tenacious, extremely tenacious, and I just let her lead. I let her lead and I learn from her. And she's so happy, so happy, apart from when she doesn't go to people, that I just think, oh my God, you know, your definition of normal changes When you become a parent of a special child, your definition of normal changes. You think to yourself, then why do we define what's normal? There are different types of normal. For every child, that's their normal. And this was her normal. That's never been a problem for her. I don't know in the future, she might have a few questions. Why can that child walk and I can't? Right now, she's not bothered. And she's 2 and a bit. She obviously had a uterus surgery. That was in my stomach. The good thing about that was, again, that she was healing in my stomach. So there was no healing outside. So that bit had already been done. She had an operation of 4 days. When she was, I think, 6 months, 7 months, they decided to do a vasectomy on her, and that was because what had happened was, when she was 3 months, they did a test on her bladder, and her bladder was retaining water, and she kept getting infections, but she wasn't showing any signs. So Dr. Rob was saying that we just want to do the vasectomy, and again, you go into the appointment room, they say we want to do vasectomy, you nod your head and say okay, you walk out. I used to walk out and they used to have this toilet right next door. Go into the toilet, have a cry it out, fully cry it out. And then, like they say, dust yourself up and start again, and then just come out and think, okay. And then we went in to get the vasectomy done. Vasectomy is what they did was they made a hole here in her bladder, at the top of her bladder. So just below the belly button, that they made a little incision. Really, really small, like that small. And at the time I was like, oh, but now I'm telling you, that's small. And it was the best decision I ever made, because when I was cathetering her before, they would, and even when they catheter her, they don't just let you be. They get you in, they train you how to catheter her. If you think you're having a problem, you can come back in to see the nurses. They can show you again, and you take 2 out yourself. Once you're comfortable, that's when they set you off with the catheters. And it literally is, once you know where it is, that's it. I used to be so worried, how am I going to put it in? But once I knew where it was, I used to do it like it's nothing. And I knew that's that, push it through, and then kind of thing. And I asked all the questions. What if I get it wrong? What if it doesn't go? They said, try it twice, then stop. You can do it the next one. What if I've got to drop off my sisters and I've got to go somewhere? These are questions you have to ask, because these are questions where, like, if I didn't ask, I would have been like, no, I can't leave her anywhere. I can't leave her anywhere. I can't have nothing about me time, because no one knows how to catheter her. But then she was like, look, if you have to go somewhere and you can't catheter her, by that one day, it's not going to impact her that much. As long as when you brought her back or something like that, you can catheter her, which really, really put me at ease. Even though I didn't then leave her anywhere. But if I was somewhere where I couldn't catheter her, I knew I could come back and then catheter her. I didn't have to, otherwise it was every 4 hours you would do it. So that was cathetering. So now, after the vasectomy, I don't need to, she's got a nappy on, well, I've got pull-ups on for her, and she just wheezes it out. So the only thing is it keeps weeing out, so you have to be really careful. But it's as careful as you'd be when we change the nappy of boys, because you know it's going to go shoo kind of thing, so it just leaks itself. The negative of that was, what do you call it, you have to make sure pull-ups are on top, because she's so active now. You see, if I'll talk to you about it later, but she's so active now that sometimes when she sits, she bends over and then it just flops, and then sometimes it can leak. But the leak is a problem. I'm still trying to find out a solution for that. She doesn't leak all the time, just sometimes. But overall, it's the best thing I ever did. She went on from that. She went on to have casts on her legs. This was at 6 weeks. So sorry, the vasectomy was at 6 months, but 6 weeks she had casts on her legs, and I remember I was worried about that. But because she had no feelings, she had no problem, because she couldn't feel them. So they'd go in, put the plaster on it, kind of mold the cast that they're gonna put on there, and they even at one point, I was told that if I can and want to, the night before, take the casting off. That was because when they'd taken the first cast off, her feet had improved incredibly. So they kind of said that she probably didn't have true telophase. They were probably just turned like that because she wasn't had no movements and she was all cooped up, that she couldn't move her feet. Because they just became really flexible straight away. So she was like, just take it off the night before and then come in the morning. And then you learn everything they teach you. You learn it. You just adapt so quickly. And then there's so many hospital appointments at the beginning, because you're just like, oh, okay. but you get used to it. She used to have 4 appointments a week at the beginning. For the first 4 months, it was 4 appointments a week. And it was like either it was Euro or it was Neuro or it was Ortho. And what they're doing is they're trying to set a system up for you in place. And at that time, so she had that. After the calcium boost, her shunt stopped working twice. So after the vasocostomy was in April, in June she had her first shunt revision, and that was quite emotional, like because they had told you about the symptoms that you can watch out for, and her symptoms were clear as day. She would literally go from normal chirping Nusaybah to puking and her head just flopping. She was just floppy, and then she was just like, I was just out of it like that, and you'd know straight away. I thought, okay, this is not good. Lie her down. She just started puking again. Then I took her into the A&E at that time. They checked her over. They said it should be fine because when they did her scan, they compared it to, because at 3 months, which I mentioned, she had an MRI scan and she had to be sedated for that. So that was her first sedation, and she handled it really well. And so when they compared it to that MRI, they said, oh, everything's fine. But I'm like, no, she doesn't look fine. So I went home, but then I brought her back in because she was literally puking out everything she was drinking. She was puking all out. She was floppy. She was sleeping all the time. These are the major signs. And her frontal here was dipped. So I took her in again, and he goes, we'll do another scan. Because you know best, because you know there's nothing wrong with her. There's something wrong with her. They did the scan. They and her scan was fine. She didn't have to be sedated because she was already so drowsy. They said, Mom, you're right. It is picking up and we have to operate on her. And that was the first time I had a devastating blow after she's I had the vasocostomy operation, and I got over that. Because with the vasocostomy, she had the operation, but the next day she was fine. She was completely fine. She was sitting down doing all this stuff, and I realised how quickly she recuperates over things. And then with the shunt one, I was worried about it, but then again the next day she was literally, after the operation, she was drowsy the first day. You feel all these emotions. The next day, Madam is a completely different person, because obviously the shunt's working now. So you'd want anything apart from her being floppy. So she was completely fine the next day. 6 months in December, she had the same symptoms. And I remember thinking, oh my God. But just persevere, keep telling them. They will do the tests and everything that they need to. And they had to do the tap. And they don't want to do a scan again because they don't have been 6 months. And when I kept saying, look, can't you see the symptoms? Because look, she's clear. But they didn't want to, do anything and that they didn't need to do. So when they did the tap and nothing was coming out, they realised, actually, yeah, this is what it is. And we're going to operate the next day. And they operated, and Dr. Solanki was so brilliant, because I remember he did both of the shunt revisions on her. I told him to maintain the hair. They normally shave the hair off. But her hair is so nice and so curly, and he decided that, okay, actually, I'll just tidy up either side, and then did a cut, and she was fine the next day. And that's basically, so since then, alhamdulillah, she hasn't had that many problems since then at all. No problems, actually. Everything has been fine. Usual physio. That's her life yet. Let me just see what else I've got. So that's a part of her life then.